All right, welcome, everyone. I am Cicely Renee, and this is the She Sits at His Feet podcast, and we are back with another episode. Look over there, we have some amazing, dope young woman on with us, and we're going to be interviewing. We're going to talk. It's going to be girl talk. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, and so you guys, you're not going to want to miss this. All right, let's get started. Welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay, look at first of all, your smile is just so bright and beautiful. I love it. And so, like, one of the things about you, you are definitely a happy, joyful person, spirited person that is just so, exciting. And so I love being around you. So y'all, real quick, so Stephanie and I have known each other for maybe a year and a half now.
Mhm.
Yeah, about that. So she was part of the bookstore. She had her book in there. She had a book signing. She's doing some amazing things. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Greenville, South Carolina, born and raised. I have been in Dallas for 2 years. I absolutely love it here. Yes, and I do remember when I met you at your grand opening. So, and so pretty much my background is I grew up in a single parent home with my mother. I have two brothers. I've always had a creative passion. Back then it was dance, so I used to be on dance teams. I used to come up and choreograph different things. I used to be on a step team. I used to write. I used to write poetry. That was my outlet, and I started that at a young age. And so I've always been in the creative space. My first entrepreneurship or entrepreneur venture was Kids Fusion, and that's when I had a mobile kids fitness. And I really love that because I've always been passionate about the youth, about working with kids. And so I just have kind of like a natural gift for that. And so that's why I first started. And then I transitioned a few years ago when I wrote my book. So God put it in my spirit to write it. Honestly, I had the idea about it a few years ago, wrote it, and that really the book is what birthed my brand, The Authentic Stephanie Sterling. So that's just a tad bit about me. There's many layers to me. So but I
Yes.
really do enjoy networking, meeting new people. I really enjoy being able to help people in whatever realm that is for them, where I meet them. I like to meet people where they are. Um, I'm very compassionate. I'm very passionate also about what I do, about really getting to know people and building relationships with people as well.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, she is definitely the networking queen. She's always hosting events, business, self-care, self-love, all of those things. And so you guys, if we can talk about that and you guys want to get your notebooks and your pens out to take some notes from her because she does it the best and I struggle big time, but we're going to get better. So you said the authentic Stephanie Sterling. This is the brand. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, so like I was saying, it was my brand was really birthed from my book. At the time, all I knew was God put it in my spirit to tell my story of growing up fatherless and being able to share my journey of healing and growing. And so the brand came after that because I was just like, I just want to share my story with people. And so then something, I don't even remember how I even came up with the idea, but I guess for me it was now I'm being transparent to people. I don't even know. I'm being vulnerable, I'm being open. And so that's where the authentic Stephanie Sterling came from. And so with that, that is me as an author, speaker, entrepreneur. I focus on self love is the key. I focus on helping women overcome childhood traumas and giving them the tools for self love and how to do that and the healthy healing methods and being able to give them tools so they can live a more fulfilling and successful life. And so that's the premise of my brand. It's different, of course, pieces to it with my events and speaking engagements and an author and just being able to connect other people along the way and being able to give people a platform to my audience as well. So that's pretty much sums it up.
That's really cool. That is really cool. Okay, so this book, you, what is it?
Fatherless,
Father.
yes.
I read it too, y'all, and I actually did her a little some what did I do? A curriculum for your book.
Yes, yes, yes.
Let's talk
Thank
about your
you.
book. You're welcome. Have you implemented that at all yet, or what are your thoughts about putting the curriculum or using it, but also just you want to share about your book?
Yeah, so fatherless success is just my story growing up without a father. There was a lot of emotional obstacles I had to overcome starting when I was a teenager. I went through depression, I was suicidal, mainly because there was a lot of things I used to keep bottled in, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about these emotions and feelings that I had. Although my mom has been there, always been supportive, it was three of us, so she's, providing. So there were certain pieces missing that she just wasn't able to provide because she grew up fatherless as well, and she hasn't really healed from different traumas from that. And then there was also issues like in her household when she was growing up, so she just didn't know, and so she could only do what she could do. And so I just wanted to tell my story and let people know, because there are 18 million people in the United States who grow up in fatherless homes. And so I just wanted to let them know, hey, you have a support system. You are not alone. Here are tools that help me, and maybe these can help you or at least get you started and get you thinking about what to do and how to seek help and how to seek resources. And so that's what my book was about. I actually have not implemented your curriculum yet, and that's because I had knee surgery last year. And so that kind of took me on the whole whirlwind. But I do plan on implementing it. I'm still making some connections with the schools out here and getting to know people in the school system so that they can get me to the right people.
I love that. And I love, self-published authors. I love education. I love, using our stories to help other people, especially young people, because they'll think that what they see on TV is what it is. Like, and I'm like, there's so much more to that. And even if they did have that type of success, there was still a journey that you had to take, and you have to like implement, good character skills, soft skills, hard skills. Just a lot of stuff came in with that. But a lot of students were just like, well, let's just jump to the good side. And I'm like, no, you got to go through it. And so just having those tools are definitely needed. So thank you.
Of course.
Um, yeah, okay. So tell me, so I know you do a lot of like networking events and, self-love, self-care. I know there's a lot of business workshops and stuff like that. How did you get into that? Like, so you have the Authentic Stephanie Sterling brand. How does that play into your networking events?
Well, the first thing is I've always just had a natural gift to do events. I was like the go-to person for birthday parties, for my friends' baby showers, because I just
Mhm.
have that creative eye, and I'm detail oriented. So I've always been good at that's just something naturally I was able to do. But then I learned, as an entrepreneur, you have to put on a lot of your own events to really get yourself out there and just to stay relevant, right? And so I really just transfer those skills from helping friends and family with book signings and birthday parties, and not book signings, birthday parties and baby showers and those types of things. And then I just transfer those skills to my business. And so for me, it's just I have to promote myself. I have to do something. So, and then being that I'm self-published, I have to host my own book signings. I have to reach out to businesses to see if they allow me. And then when I started my networking event for women, a ladies affair, that was just another piece because number one, my framework focuses on women. And so with that, I was like, okay, I just want to be able to connect different women and create a positive space, uplifting, empowering space for us. And so then it kind of turned into like just the ladies' night, but then it was more like a ladies' night with purpose. And so then it became themed, focusing on mental and spiritual health, focusing on self-love, focusing on financial literacy, focusing on different awareness, whether it's like suicide awareness, domestic violence, and just being able to provide a platform for other women who may be in those fields that align with my theme to have a voice and to tap into my audience.
I love that. Now, so that was one of my things that I struggle with. There's so many things I want to talk about. Hopefully, I don't forget these things. But like networking with a purpose, networking on purpose, like having, structured chaos, having, something to take away. Because when I first moved here, we just did networking. We just, had a happy hour, ate food, talked, and then left. It was like nothing substantial about it. And so I appreciate that you're doing something that has, substance, right? And I actually just interviewed another lady. She's in Atlanta, and she does, networking events with a purpose. Like there is a structure, there's a theme, they leave with something tangible, and it's just, empowering because there's, as women, and especially new in Texas, like I have struggled to like build, relationships and all of that because it's so big and so broad. And then as an adult, it's hard to like keep those friendships because it can be superficial. But it's like, okay, we want to continue building and connecting and growing. And then even making friends as an adult is kind of challenging. Have you experienced that? Or have you experienced more like friendships at all in these 2 years? And then also like the network, like so you got friendships, you got, acquaintances, you got, certain types of, relationships. How have you navigated that as, a new Texan here for the past 2 years?
So for me, I've always kind of been a loner. And what I mean by that, I walk to the beat of my own drum. I've always been that way. I've always just naturally had this thing within me to lead. So I was never doing what people in my age group was doing in high school. I was always doing something different, because I knew it was just something inside of me that I know God has something greater for me. God had a different plan for me. And so I've just always been different in that way. And so for me, I'm not really one of those people that's like, oh, I want to make friends. And no, I don't even like people in my space like that, to be real. But I really enjoy meeting new people, and helping them. But as far as my personal space, I'm very protective of that because my peace is very important. And so for that purpose, I'm very selective on who I allow in my personal space. And so moving to Dallas, most of the people that I meet is through networking, to be real. But I have a few people who we have built friendships, and they're genuine and they're solid. And that's just because we have cultivated a relationship and they have shown me and they have showed up for me and they continue to show up for me. And so I have cultivated those relationships. I'm not going to say it was hard or anything. For me, it's just I'm a very big, I have a strong spirit of discernment and I'm a very big energy person. And so it was really organic and it was a two-way street. And people fail to realize that in any relationship, whether it's a friendship, family, companionship, business, it has to be a two-way street. And so the friendships I have cultivated is because it has been reciprocal energy. And those friendships so far have been solid.
Yes. Yes, that reciprocity is definitely needed and deep and like, there's so many people that can take and take and take and take and don't really know how to give. And it's just like that can be draining and, non-conducive to, growth. And so I'm just like, well, and I'm just saying like, that's probably why I struggle with, building deep connections. And I think one of my issues was, like I didn't stay in one place for too long. So Texas is the second longest place I've ever stayed. And it's only been 7 years. So every other place has been like 1, 2 years, maybe at the most. And so as soon as I meet someone, it's like, okay, it's time to move and do something else, and then you lose that connection because it's like out of sight, out of mind. And if you, it, yeah, that was my thing. And so keeping those connections have been a challenge,
Mhm.
but
Well,
it's
2 words I can tell you is be intentional.
mhm,
Anything that we want, anything we have set up in our life that we really want, whether it's personal or professional, in order to attain it, we have to be intentional every single day. So if you come across good people, even if you do move, but if you come across genuine people who support you and there's a genuine connection there, you're going to be intentional to reach out to them, even if it's once a month.
right.
But if that person has big enough impact, or if you really care or appreciate that person that much, you're going to learn how to be intentional.
Yeah.
So I tell people life is a choice. The things we do in life is a choice. So learn how to be intentional, because we can sit here and say all day, oh, yeah, I'm going to do better at that. But really, you haven't set a plan to do better at that. You haven't written it down. You haven't said, okay, well, let me start out by doing this once a week. You have no plan. You just want to hear, some people just want to hear themselves talk. It sounds
Mm,
good. But when you be intentional, and that's one thing I can say. Well, maybe it's kind of a gift for me too, but I'm very intentional about cultivating relationships. I'm very intentional about keeping in touch with people, even if I send you a text, like, how's everything going once a month, or
yeah.
email checking on you, or that's just my nature. I've always been that way. So for me, even when I have a lot of stuff going on, I still know how to show up for people. And what I've learned, some people just don't have the capacity,
Mhm.
and that's fine. You have to meet people where they are. But at the same time, you have to understand, if you want me to be in a certain level in your life, you have to show reciprocity.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Have you ever hosted like an event, network to talk about that at all? Or do you feel like that is something in the works? Do you think that's a hot topic? Yeah.
Um, no, I've never talked about it. I guess it never really crossed my mind to have a discussion about it. So, but maybe I can do it because I do my Instagram lives every other Thursday. So maybe that's something I can discuss there.
Yeah.
That could be my next topic.
I love it. Okay, you do Instagram lives every other Thursday. What do you talk about? How does that work? Do you invite folks or yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much I do it every other Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And I do it on Instagram. I was trying to do Instagram and Facebook, but honey, that was too much. So I was like, I'm gonna stay where my people at on Instagram, because I will spread thin. But typically, so it's called Fatherless Success Presents. And
Mhm.
so I kind of just figure out, like, what's going on this month? What do I want to portray? And the reason why I call it Fatherless Success Presents, because number one, I want to keep the focus. Everything started with my book. And so I want to keep that at the top of people's minds. But basically, I'll talk about either something that's going on, different experiences, or things that I have encountered, things that I have observed. So I really just pick different topics to discuss.
Okay.
Whether it's like forgiveness, or whether it's just something in life in general, or being able to give mental health tips, those types of things.
Okay. That's really cool. That is cool because I know I'm like, oh, I need to do more lives, but I'm also
Mhm.
like, I get nervous that I may not know what to say, or if I stutter, or if I repeat myself. But I do find myself like, right, like, because this is kind of like off the cuff too, like, organic. And I feel like it's better when you're having a conversation with someone rather than just talk by yourself. And I think that's a hard thing too with the whole like going live, because you can't really see nobody. You just
Mhm.
see yourself, and I'm just like, But I think that's cool.
Well,
I
my
like,
advice to you is, you won't ever know until you do it, and you can't ever hone the skills unless you do it. Because I was
yeah,
like that when I first started. Like, I'm just gonna be talking, and I don't know. But like I said, be intentional, make a plan, get your notebook, and say, okay, this, let me look at my schedule. Okay, this day works better for me. Even if you start out just doing it, I don't know, once a month,
Yeah.
how, what works for your schedule, but just stay consistent with it. And then just be like, hey, um, let me see, what do I want to discuss? What is my platform about? Who do I want to reach?
Yeah.
What time do I feel like is going to be best to do this? Whether you use Instagram, Facebook, whatever you choose, and just show up and be like, okay, but outline it, have a plan, have your outline. That's what I do.
Yeah. That's real. That's real. Intentionality. So one thing that I've been focused on lately, God has been telling me that I need to be a good steward over things that I've been given. And so whatever that is, like my business, my, art life, my, my work life, like that. And so like I have definitely seen a shift in how I've been presenting things and doing things. And I'm just okay, being a steward, because I'm like, if I want more, I have to make sure uh, I'm a good steward over this little, right? So you can't, God's not going to just give you a whole bunch of stuff if you don't know how to manage it. And so I'm like, okay, we got to get it together. And it's just adulting too. Like we have to get organized. We got to focus. We got to be intentional with everything. And so that has been something I've been working on. And I'm enjoying it because it gives me some structure, right? And so I
Mhm.
love structure. I don't
Mhm.
know about other people, but I love structure.
Same here. Like I have my systems in place. I go through once a quarter and tweak whatever I need to tweak, take away, add, whatever. But having your systems on the back
Mhm.
end shows on the front end, and when you don't have them on the back end, it also shows on the front end. So you always want to operate your business where you see yourself in the future, not out of your pocket or the resources you have currently.
Right. It's real. And that was something I wanted to talk to you earlier about, because you said you wanted to share your story, you put yourself out there, you're transparent, vulnerable, and that's nothing but like a faith walk. And so, like, how have you? Sorry, there's some kids around and they're loud. No, but that's cute. And so with that being, faith is huge, because you just said like you don't want to be focused on what you have right now. You want to be like, thinking into the future, like what's gonna happen, having that hope. And so how has your faith journey been? Has it like gotten, stronger and bigger and crazier, or is it
Mhm.
like the same?
For girl, mine has grown tremendously. Like I have been through so much. Even just moving here was a hurdle, and then different things I've had to overcome when I got here. And the biggest one was my knee surgery. But one thing I can say with all of those obstacles that I have been through, it drew me closer to God and closer to God, and seeing that, oh, He really is here. And so
Mhm.
my faith has only grown more and more, and it grows more and more every single day.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I know. And so, like, I enjoy, like, so faith, it's definitely challenging because it tests you. It's like, okay, are you really trusting that God is God and He will be there for you and do what He says He will do? Or are you
Mhm.
just going to rely back onto what you can do? Because that has been I go back and forth, but I can see like, so I like data. And so I like to see, the little dot chart where you see a whole bunch of dots, right? And sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But as long as that line in the middle is like going up, we're good to go. Like we understand that there's going to be some like setback, but as long as there's progress, we are good. But whew.
Right, right. No, I get it. There was this guy that I met one day. We had a conversation, and he was like, "Do you have a piece of paper? I want to write you a note." And he said, and because I was telling him something like, I'm a logic. It has to make sense for my logic, right? That I'm a logical person. And on the paper, he said, God is not logical.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm.
so, what I want to tell you is God is not data. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that, you have to wholeheartedly believe in something that you do not see.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we get caught up in worldly things and the way the world runs or do things. But there's a lot of things God does that doesn't make sense, that we don't understand and may not ever understand. But faith is still knowing, hey, this is my Father, and believing in him wholeheartedly, even in your darkest hour.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So I recently read, like, I was listening to someone, and they were like, "Did you know that disbelief is a sin?" I was like, "Oh God." So like, not having faith is like a sin, and so I'm just like, okay. So now I'm like, okay, gotta practice this. It's a muscle too, right? Just growing that muscle, stretching it, and just really stepping out. But I will say I definitely jump in the deep end when it comes to like taking risks and having, faith walks because I mean, I'm same. Like I moved here to Texas. I didn't have a job. And I just was like, let's do this. And I've been here for 7 years, 7.5 years, 7 years. And it's been amazing. No matter what it looked like. I didn't have a job for a while. Like I, had a business that didn't work out and just like a whole bunch of, but I'm like, I'm still here. And so that's so awesome. And then there was one time where I moved to Miami with 3 days with $250 in my pocket, and I stayed for 2 years, and it was amazing. I had a little job. It was like a volunteer job. It wasn't like, oh, you're gonna be making $60,000 because you just graduated, you got your bachelor's. No, it was more like you're volunteering, but it was awesome. I served for 2 years, and it made a huge impact on me. And just trusting that God's gonna show up. He takes care. Like I'm just like, bro, like, yeah. Sorry, I can ramble on, but and, okay, real quick, I want you to think about your path, right? And I just want you to think of some moments where you're like, oh my God, he's right there. Like, I want you to share one of those stories if you want to, if you're comfortable. Just like, and I'm like, reflecting on the path because God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And so if he showed up then, he's gonna continue to show up. And so yeah.
Being following your passion and being an entrepreneur is not easy. You're going to have ups and downs. You're financially, a lot of us, I know for me, I focus on like, this is I want to be very wealthy. This is the amount of money I want to be making. And it bothers me if I'm not at that point or that I haven't made it to that certain point yet. But then I have to remind myself, God always provides. And so I have those moments when I feel like, why am I not making more money? Or why isn't this monetizing itself? Or why is this? Then I have to sit there and think, literally. And I said, you have a place to live,
Yeah.
you have a car, you eat every day, you have good health, you have a great support system. God has given you this vision. And why are you trying to be ungrateful? No. So that alone has taught me how to be more grateful and show gratitude every single day. First thing I do when I wake up is I thank him. I pray. I read my scripture and I carry that throughout the day. And I'm like, just thank you. I'm just so grateful. And he
Yeah.
shows up. He shows up at the darnest times. So yeah.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. What is your word for this year? Uh-oh, hold on. Someone's trying to call me. No. All right. What is your word for this year?
This year, my word is acceptance. And
Okay.
that was primarily due to my knee surgery because I was in a really dark place because I was somebody who worked out 5, 6 days a week. I'm used to being on the go, doing things, and I had to sit down. And so with that, I put on like 15 pounds. I just wasn't in a really good headspace for a long time. And so when the light switch finally came back on for me to accept where I am, I said, that is my word this year: acceptance. Being able to accept where I am, being able to accept what I have, being able to accept who I am, and being able to continuously accept the purpose God has over my life. And
Mhm.
so that has helped me tremendously. It's like, hey, maybe I can't do these high impact workouts that I used to do, but I can still do low impact workouts 4 days a week. Okay, just you just gotta do things different. You gotta maneuver different. It's okay. You're used to this because you were doing this for 10 years, right? But you just have to learn how to maneuver differently. And so that has led me to the word acceptance.
I love it. I love it. And the acceptance is like trusting God. Like, hey, yeah, it looks like this, but it's not gonna always stay this way. But it's gonna, like you gotta like contentment. I love it. I love
Correct.
it. And so, okay, the whole slowing down, moving, that has been my life story. Like I've always been on the go, like nonstop working, just going. And then when I not lost the bookstore, but when I closed the bookstore down, I was forced, like kind of literally forced me to be still for like months and months and months. And so life just came really, it got really quiet and very slow. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Tell me about your slow life.
I've actually recently encountered this earlier this month, where God was just telling me, I need you to stop doing things because you feel like you need to make this amount of money and do this, and those things haven't been working out. And I literally had to say, okay, God, I'm gonna I'm gonna let you take the wheel. I'm gonna stop trying to do X, Y, and Z to make additional money, and I'm gonna allow you to be God and show up for me. And so honestly, during these like 2, almost 3 weeks where I've just slowed down and paced myself, and just sometimes I just don't do anything, or I do the minimum in the day, and then he's showing up for me. And I'm like, oh, well, I've been doing too much and I hadn't been listening to you. I hadn't been able to hear you. But
Oh,
literally, when I slowed down, he has been showing up in major ways.
yes.
He has. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm like, okay, now he's put me on a different pace for a while so I can really let him be God.
Yeah. And of course, like God will force you to sit, but then also we have the decision to slow down ourselves and rearrange things that don't really need to be in our lives. Like I feel like we do a lot for just no reason.
Mhm.
Do you feel like odds or tips for people who just kind of just need to slow down? What are your thoughts on that?
For me, is number one, get off of social media. Stop listening to social media, because working 365 no sleep, you're not going to accomplish anything that way. I don't care what anybody say. And we are all built different. So what's going to work for one person is going to work for another person. And so what I know, I need at least 5 hours of sleep a night, or I'm not going to function properly. So you got to do what's going to work for you, and stop thinking that, oh, just because I'm busy and my schedule is full, that's not the same as being productive. You sometimes could be counterproductive by doing that. And so people have to learn to tap into their inner self so they can really understand and know when God is leading them versus when they are leading themselves and making the decision despite of what God is showing them. But you just have to believe. You have to, like you said, have faith. You have to be intentional. And it's going to be hard for people who's always used to, like, I work and I have my brand and I'm a part of different organizations and I have partnerships with other people and other businesses. But you have to learn what is really important at this moment. God, what are you requiring of me at this moment? And stop thinking, oh, just because somebody on social media said that you're supposed to be running like a chicken with your head cut off. No, you got to be moving with purpose, with intentionality. So that would be my advice.
I love that. I listened to someone. He was like, if you make yourself available for something, you make yourself unavailable for something else. So like, you got to make sure that so when I was forced to stand, I was like, okay, God, guide everything. And I'm like, what do I need to go to this event? Do I need to do this? And I listened to what he told me to do. Like there was something. Oh yeah, and the girl was not happy with me, but I prayed about it, and God was like, "No, don't go." And I was just like, "I'm so sorry, I cannot go." And so it made something else happen in that time. Like I was like, "Oh, I didn't need to go because this needed to happen." And so like if you allow more freedom in your day, things will change. Like be able to be directed more easily, and you can hear God more when you're not so busy and distracted and no.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, before we head out, okay, tell people how they can find you and how they can support you.
Yeah, so I have a website, www.theauthenticstephaniesterling.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Authentic Stephanie Sterling, TikTok at The Authentic SS, as well as LinkedIn, whether my personal LinkedIn under Stephanie Sterling or my page, The Authentic Stephanie Sterling.
Awesome. And y'all can grab her book. Grab one for you and give it as a gift to someone else. And I will definitely put all that information in the description as well. It was awesome chatting. I haven't had like a conversation in a while. It's been
right.
We're gonna yeah. Yes. All right.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad.